Hi everybody. Today our webinar topic is for IBM JAZZ users of today and tomorrow who would like to integrate different multi-vendor ALM tools using OSLC. Today our agenda is, first of all, we'll talk about why we want to integrate ALM tools and what are the goals for integrating different tools. Then we'll introduce the Cohere Omnibus integration platform, which is the basis for this OSLC enablement. And then we'll introduce OSLC, and we'll also talk about the Cohere support of OSLC. And finally, Atanu will show a demonstration of number of different tools integration using OSLC. So let's start with the question, why do we integrate ALM or SDLC tools? The first goal is almost obvious. Almost every tool vendor tries to offer the data visibility across different tools. So this is what we call the plumbing or data plumbing, which basically means seeing one tool's data in another tool. Now this can be achieved two ways. One can be a bidirectional synchronization, or it can be federation. Federation basically means that you can actually see the data of the other tool without actually transferring the data from one tool to another tool, which basically means on demand you go to the other tool and get that data from this other tool. Now the data visibility is the tip of the iceberg. We should be able to achieve much more than just the data visibility. For example, we should be able to create the traceability between objects in different tools. This traceability allows us to do change management across the tools, which basically means that if one object in one tool is changed, we should be able to see the impact of that change in other tools. The third goal of integration should be process automation across the tools. You know that there are many tools like the bug tracking tool, requirements management tool, change management tool. Each of these tools can have its own built-in workflow process engine. But what about a process which cuts across the tool's boundary and basically creates a macro process for the whole life cycle? Now, of course, you cannot do that with just one tool. You have to have that process implemented across these different tools. And finally, you should be able to do reporting and dashboarding, which includes the data coming from different tools. And moreover, because of the traceability relation which you can create between the different objects in different tools, some new metrics, some new patterns can emerge because of those kinds of relationships which were impossible to see if you are just using one single tool. So these are the goals for integration. It is not necessarily true that for each kind of integration technology will be able to provide all these goals, but at least you should try to achieve these goals. Now, once we have decided to do the integration, next question is, what are my options? How can I do it? The first option is actually the most popular one, which is called the point-to-point integration. This is the integration between a pair of tools. Almost every vendor provides this point-to-point integration between their own tools as well as between their tools and the other vendors' tools. One good thing about point-to-point integration is it supports best-of-the-breed multi-vendor tools. But the problem is that it is actually a little too complex because every pair of tools you have to create a handcrafted integration. The second option you have is when you go to a large vendor and they may provide you all the different kinds of tools, whatever you need. Almost all the tools, and they are already integrated. There are two problems with that. Number one is you are already using some of the tools, which means you have to throw them out and replace them by this new vendor's tools, which may be a little expensive. And the second problem is not necessarily all the tools from a single vendor are based in that particular breed. So it does not support best-of-the-breed tools. The third option is the ALM integration middleware or integration platform, and Cohere Omnibus is actually one of those options. So here also it supports best-of-the-breed multi-vendor tools. That means whatever tools you choose to use today, whether you own it today or you acquire it in future, it can be supported by this ALM integration middleware. Moreover, it is actually better than point-to-point because you just need one adapter per tool connected to an enterprise service bus. And by doing that, the complexity is much less than the point-to-point tools. And here is actually a pictorial view of these differences. So let's say we have got 10 tools, and we are trying to integrate kind of completely between every pair of tools. So in a point-to-point integration, you need 45 handcrafted integration to cover all the 10 tools. Whereas for ESB, you just need 10 adapters. Just to give an example, the kind of savings you can have in ESB versus point-to-point, if you add the 11th tool to the mix, in case of point-to-point, you have to actually create 10 additional codes for connecting that 11th tool to all the existing 10 tools. In case of ESB, you just need one adapter. So one adapter versus 10 handcrafted integration. So that's the kind of savings in terms of effort, in terms of cost, you will get by using Enterprise Service Bus. This is Omnibus architecture. As I said, that Omnibus is an Enterprise Service Bus. By the way, we did not actually invent Enterprise Service Bus. It is there for a long time, for the last 20, 25, 30 years. It is there for other industries. Covier is the only one who actually introduced it to the tools industry to create the ecosystem of tools. And here, as you can see, that using Omnibus, you can actually integrate different kinds of tools that may be an on-premise applications, that can be some cloud applications as well. And for each of these tools, there is an adapter connected to this Omnibus. And Covier actually has two kinds of adapters. There are certain adapters which allows you to do a synchronization between between different tools. So basically, it actually moves the data from one tool to another tool. It can be both synchronization as well as federation. Remember, federation basically means on demand you get the data. And then there are plugins. So plugins actually extends the interface of certain tools, especially for those tools which does not have its own repository. So for example, if you're using Eclipse or Visual Studio, using the plugin for Visual Studio or Eclipse, you can actually access either Covier repository or any other tools repository and see those data from that particular interface, whether it is Eclipse or Visual Studio or even ClearCase. What are the components of Omnibus? First of all, as I mentioned, Omnibus uses Enterprise Service Bus architecture. It also uses web services, which basically means all the tools you're integrating, they can be anywhere in the world, running on any kind of platform, whether it is Windows, Linux, even mainframe, and even it can be running behind the firewall. Now, the Omnibus platform consists of the following components. First of all, there is a component for Covier Entity Framework. And what is that? Using this framework, you can create different entities or objects which actually correspond to different objects in different tools. So let's say you are using a requirements management tool like a Rational Requisite Pro. So you can create an object in Covier or entity in Covier called the requirements. Similarly, you are using Quality Center from HP, and you can create an entity called the test case. So you can actually create any number of entities. By the way, you don't need to code anything. Everything is just by drag and drop. You don't need to know how to create tables, how to write SQL statements, none of those things. You can just create those just by mouse click. Now, Covier, this Omnibus platform also includes the traceability relation interface, which basically means using number of different visual interfaces, you can create the traceability link between the objects in different tools. For example, if you want to create a traceability from a requirement in Requisite Pro to a test case in Quality Center, you can actually create that using this interface. And Covier actually has more than one interface for creating this traceability relation. You can use a graphical interface like a network diagram to do that. You can use a traceability metrics, or you can use a traceability hierarchy to create those kinds of interfaces. Covair Omnibus platform also includes a workflow engine called OmniProcess. Using that, you can actually create workflows for any of the objects in any of the tools using a Visio-like drag and drop interface. You just draw the workflow, and that process enables the external object in that particular tool. So taking again the example of Requisite Pro and the requirements, you can create, let's say, a requirement review and approval process using OmniProcess, and that will allow the requirements in the Requisite Pro to be process enabled. Covair also includes the reporting and dashboarding engine. So actually there are a number of different engines there. One is an Excel, there is a Crystal report, also you have got HTML, and then finally we have a very powerful Microsoft Word-based reporting engine. Covair Omnibus also includes the administrative interface to manage the integration business rules. So for example, if you want to create a business rule that only the requirements which are approved will be transferred from Requisite Pro to Quality Center, then you can create that kind of business rules using a drag and drop interface. And finally, of course, the Omnibus execution engine is also included in the Omnibus platform. Other than the Omnibus platform, you will need the adapters for the particular tools which you would like to integrate, and also the plugins, for example, for Visual Studio or Eclipse. These are the adapters available today for a number of different tools in the market. As you can see, that Covair actually covers a lot of ground in terms of all the popular development tools, and they actually cover all the different kinds of phases of development. This is a typical ecosystem of development tools which can be connected to Covair Omnibus. Here, I'll just quickly go through some of these tools. And these are basically taken from the real-life implementation in our customers kind of scenario. For example, requirements management is used using the Rational Requisite Pro. Then design can be done by the enterprise architect, coding by Eclipse and Visual Studio, configuration management by Perforce, build management by Hudson, unit testing by JUnit, functional and regression testing by Rational Functional Testers, test management and reporting using HP Quality Center, and defect management by JIRA. So it is not necessary that every company uses all of these tools, but we have customers who actually uses 14, 15 different tools together along with their own internal tools to create a really large ecosystem. Now let's talk about the WSLC. Now, WSLC is an open standard, and this is basically created to make the development tools compatible to a standard so that they can integrate with each other without any adapters. So what is really expected that going forward, vendors will be creating their tools which is already WSLC compliant. And if you have a WSLC compliant tool, in that case, you just connect to each other without additional adapter or anything. So that's the goal of WSLC. And WSLC covers a number of different phases of development. And for each of these phases of development, they have created this specification. For example, for change management, quality management, requirements management, asset management, and architecture management. Currently, there are quite a few WSLC members, and as you can see, Covair is, of course, one of the members of WSLC. And WSLC actually has a number of tools. The one problem is that the existing tools from many of these vendors are not WSLC compatible, and that is one of the reasons why Covair is one of the best solutions for connecting all these existing tools from the vendors which are not WSLC compatible today. So Covair has built this WSLC provider. By the way, WSLC tools can be in two categories. OSLC provider, that means which is providing the data, and the OSLC consumer, which is actually getting the data. So Covair has actually created this OSLC provider so that OSLC consumer, like RTC, which is the Rational Team Concept, RRC, which is the Rational Requirement Composer, or RQM, like the Rational Quality Manager, these are all consumers, can actually get the data from the existing tools like the JIRA, HP Quality Center, TFS, SharePoint, which are not OSLC provider. But using Covair actually can be made, these tools are made OSLC provider. And Covair actually supports the specification for the Change Management version 2, Quality Management version 2, and Requirements Management version 2. So if you look at this kind of architecture of the Covair OSLC support, so on the left-hand side we have all the OSLC consumer, and they are connected to the Covair OSLC provider using the REST API, which is basically the interface for OSLC. And then the Covair OSLC provider is connected to Covair Omnibus, and Covair Omnibus has all these different adapters which connects all these different other tools. So basically the connection is from the consumer to the Covair OSLC provider to Covair Omnibus, and then the final tool. So there are 2 layers, or rather 3 layers of connectivity between the consumer and this external tool. And this is how it works. So if you look at on the left-hand side, that is the consumer, and it actually supports the following actions, like the search, preview, create new, or edit. And for each one of them, the consumer sends the request to the Covair OSLC provider, which in turn passes it to Covair Omnibus, and then using the adapter, Covair Omnibus sends it to the particular tool, let's say to JIRA. And then JIRA sends back the data to Covair Omnibus, goes back to Covair OSLC provider, and goes back the search result to the OSLC consumer. So this is how it works. For every action, there is a request and the result. So goes the request all the way to the tool and comes back from the tool to the Covair Omnibus, to the OSLC provider, back to the consumer. So in today's demo, Atanu will actually show the following tools. It will start with the Rational Requirement Composer, that is the consumer he will be using. The other external tools he will be showing in the demonstration are the TFS, Requisite Pro, Query Center, and JIRA. So let me hand it over to Atanu so that he can start doing the demo. Okay, Atanu, it's all yours now.
Thanks, Kai. Hello, everybody. So, as Kai mentioned that in today's demo, I would take you through an example development process where different stakeholders are using tools like IBM Requirements Composer, Rational Requisite Pro, HP Quality Center, and JIRA. And we will see how Covair OSLC adapter built on the Covair Omnibus integration platform helps them to work together in a collaborative model, having complete visibility into the artifacts coming from different tools from within their preferred tool environment. So first, what we'll show is between IBM RRC and Microsoft Team Foundation Server, how the interaction happens, how do you link items, how do you synchronize items. We'll see that. In the next phase, we'll go to the Quality Center, and we'll see how between RRC and HP Quality Center the collaboration happens. And then on the third step, we'll use JIRA as a defect tracking tool, and we'll see how you can synchronize or link between IRC and JIRA. And then and the last step, I would show Requisite Pro as a additional example of how you can even kind of set up a kind of OSLC linking between the old IBM tools like Requisite Pro and the current requirement tools like RRC. Okay, so let me kind of open up RRC interface. So this is IBM Rational Requirements Composer interface, and this is a OSLC consumer tool. Now, you may probably know that for an OSLC consumer tool to kind of browse the artifacts provided by a OSLC service provider, that OSLC service provider has to be registered as a friend in that particular RRC project. So I'm not going to basically show you the complete configuration details, but for just the demonstration purpose, what I would show you here, this is the server administration for RRC, and you see the friends here outbound, and if I click here, you could see that Cover OSLC provider demo is registered as a OSLC service provider. And Sky mentioned that we currently support the requirements management, the quality management, and the change management specification. For today's demo, we have registered Cover OSLC adapter as a change management specification or change management provider, but it could be set up as a quality management or requirements management provider also. Now, let's go to a requirements composer project, which is in our case is demo project for OSLC. So you could see the requirements shown in the form of a list in the requirements composer interface. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do here is to create a customer requirement in RRC. So OSLC webinar demo customer requirement in RRC. Let me copy that title and put it in description, and I click finish. So you can see that the requirement gets added in RRC. Now if I click on the customer requirement, it gets to the details screen. And what I would do is I would like to put the description in the rich text here also and save it. And then I would open up the link section here. So this is the area from where you can browse through the artifacts exposed by your OSLC service provider and kind of see the artifacts in different tools, and maybe you would be able to create even artifacts in other tools and then link those artifacts with the requirements here. So what we would do is, I would like to basically create a functional requirement in TFS so that that requirement gets implemented by the developer working in TFS. So I would select the relation implemented by here, and you see two options here. So this is, by the way, the OSLC, the provider interface, and that is coming through the Cover OSLC adapter, and you see the logo here, powered by Cover. So the framework is provided by the OSLC consumer tool, but the all the dialog information is coming from the Cover OSLC adapter. Now what I would choose here is create new, and you see we give you the selection of tools. So for today's demo, we have exposed these tools only: Team Foundation Server, Requisite Pro, JIRA, and Quality Center. So let's, for now, I want to create an item in TFS, so I select TFS, and then I can select which entity. For now, we have exposed only requirements, and then say go. So this brings up the create new dialog for a TFS requirement, and I can do it from within RRC. So let's create a OSLC webinar demo functional requirement in TFS. Well, let's put the kind of description here, and maybe we would change some of the, let's say severity, let's set to critical or severe, and then let's submit that. So what happens is that this functional requirement gets created in TFS and is linked with the customer requirement in RRC here. And you see the link here with the TFS logo. And if I now click or mouse over on the link, I get to see the information about the title, ID, and the state. And this information is coming real time on demand from TFS. And if I ask for more information to be shown, it shows additional information. And how much information you want to show in the short dialogue versus when you ask for the more dialogue, all these can be configured for different tools and different entities using CoVer OSLC provider settings. Okay. So now what I would do is, now that the functional requirement got created in TFS, I would open up the TFS interface. So let's go to the server here, and you could see this is the Microsoft Team Foundation server interface. Okay, so now let me open up the Team Explorer here. And if I open up, double click on the requirements, you see the top item here, OSLC webinar demo functional requirement in TFS. So it shows up here in TFS that we just created from within RRC. Okay. And one other thing I would like to point here is the OSLC link. So this is called a backlink. So if I have access to RRC as a TFS developer, I could even click on this link and open up the requirement. I need to log in. So see here, I could see the requirements and the links and stuff like that here. So from within the TFS, we could see the RRC requirement. Okay. And you could see that all the other field information, we changed the severity to severe, so it shows up here. Now, as a TFS developer, I would like to review the requirement and start working on it. So what I would do is I would change the status to as reviewed, and I will put my name here, Apnu, as the reviewer and the developer, and then I would put some comment as starting to work on this requirement. Okay, and I would save this work item. So as a developer, I see the functional requirement here coming from the RRC, and I work on it. And if I now go back to the RRC, as a RRC stakeholder, if I now mouse over on this, and if I go to see the more information, you will see the status is now changed to reviewed, reviewer is this, and I could see that now somebody is working on this particular requirement. And so this is again, as the developer is working in Team Foundation server, I could see it from within RRC on demand, all the modifications that are getting done in TFS. Now what I could do is I could even from here, if I want to modify something, okay, so I can click on the edit, and let's say I want to modify the title, modified in RRC. and save it. And to close it and come back to the link section and mouse over on the requirement, you see it gets modified in RRC. And if I now go back to the Team Foundation server and refresh it, you will see that is reflected. So that is how, through OSLC, the stakeholder in RRC and the developer in TFS can collaborate, and informations as they are getting changed in TFS, I could see it from RRC on demand. So this is an example of how the stakeholders can collaborate by the synchronizing information kind of through OSLC, or linking information through OSLC. Now, I would like to kind of sum up so far where are we. So what we have done, so we have covered step 1 to 5 between RRC and TFS. Okay. Now what I would like to do is I would like to go to HP Quality Center and see how the collaboration happens. So let me open up the Quality Center here. So if I now, so this is the HP Quality Center interface. And Quality Center has 3 different objects: the requirements, the test cases, and the defects. So if I now, so this is the requirements tab. If I now click on the requirements interface, you would see that the requirement that was created from RRC as a functional requirement in TFS, that is automatically synchronized here in Quality Center. So this is happening through COVAIR Omnibus integration that supports automated synchronization or replication of data. It is not through SLC. So the replication of the synchronization that happened here automatically from TFS to Quality Center, that has happened through Omnibus integration. Now, as a tester, what I would like to do is I would like to create a test case in Quality Center to test that particular functional requirement. So I click on New Test and say OSLC Web Inner Demo Test Case in Quality Center. And I now save it, come here, and what I would like to do is I would like to create a step here. So this is the test step. So step 1 and expected result 1. Okay, let's save it. And also I would like to kind of link this test case with the requirement, because this is the test case to implement this particular or to test this particular requirement. So as a tester, I have created a test case in Quality Center and linked it with the requirement. Now if I go back to our RRC interface here, and now if I go by the relationships tracked by, it could have been set up as validated by also as a quality management specification, but for today's demo, we have kept all the tools access through change management specification. So now I would select choose existing, and I would select this time Quality Center as a tool, and I would select the test as an entity, and then I will go fire a query. So it brings up all the kind of test cases that are defined in Quality Center in that particular project. Now if I go down, see here, this is the test case that we just created, the tester just created in Quality Center to implement the functional requirement or to test the functional requirement in TFS. So I relate the RRC requirement with this test case, and it shows up here as a quality center link. And now if I mouse over on this, I could see the information coming on demand again from quality center directly. So this test case is created, but it has not been executed yet. So it shows the execution status as no run, and the last modified date is such and such. Okay. So now what I would do is I would go back to quality center. So now let's say that requirement got implemented by the developer, and now as a tester I need to test these requirements. So what I would do is I would go to the test lab, and there I have a OSLC webinar demo test set, and what I would do is I would select this particular test case that I just created as a tester in Quality Center, which is the OSLC webinar demo test case in Quality Center, and I would like to execute this test case manually. You could also execute the test case automatically if you have created automation scripts, but for today's demo we would see the manual execution of the test case. So I click run, and then I say begin run. Okay, so now so see the step 1 that we created as the test step in that particular test case. So it shows up here, and it shows that the expected result is such and such. So I test this particular step manually, and I see that the step failed. So I want to set it as failed, and I would like to put the actual result here. And at the same time, since the test step has failed and the test case has failed and I got a bug, I would like to report that. So click on the new defect and OSLC webinar demo defect in QC. And I set the severity to very high and then hit submit. So the defect gets created in Quality Center, and I now would like to end the execution of this test case. So this test case gets created, and if I now go to the QC defect screen and go down, I would see that OSLC webinar demo defect in Quality Center that got created. Now, so as a tester, I have executed the test case, and the test case failed, and we created a defect in Quality Center. So if I now go back here as a RRC stakeholder, what I see here, I see that the test case execution status failed. Remember, it showed earlier no run. Now that the test case got executed and it failed, it showed up here. Okay, and it would show the last run also as the current run time. So as the tester is doing his or her job in Quality Center, since that test case is linked with this RRC, from within RRC I could see that the test case has been failed. Okay, so now, if I go back to my slide one more time, so now in the last 4 steps we have covered the interaction between the stakeholder in RRC and the tester in HP Quality Center, and we saw how the test cases can be created in Quality Center that can be linked from RRC, and as the tester is doing execution in test for the test case and adding defects, we could see the test results, test case status in RRC. Excuse me. The next tool that we will focus on is JIRA. So let us go open up JIRA interface. So this is the Atlassian JIRA tool, mostly used for defect or change management. So these are the kind of issues that are kind of reported within JIRA. And if I now click on this, so you could see again that this is the WSLC webinar demo defect in Quality Center. So this is the defect that we created as a tester, we created in Quality Center when the test case failed. And you see the test case is also replicated here. And you see the requirement is also, which is what's in TFS, is synchronized or replicated here. So again, these automated synchronization or replication of information from Quality Center or TFS to JIRA happens through Covéa Omnibus integration functionality. This is not through WSLC. And we would be able to see that this is, see here, not just the data got replicated, the test case replicated here, but you could see the relationship between the defect and the test case, and the relationship between the requirement and the test case also got replicated here. So as a JIRA kind of stakeholder using the JIRA tool, I could see not only the defect here, but the associated test case in Quality Center and the requirement in TFS from within the JIRA. And this has kind of happened through the Covéa Omnibus integration. Now let us go back to our issues, and I would open up the defect here. So this is the defect that got replicated automatically from Quality Center, and you could see that the description is also kind of synchronized here for the test case. So I can see what was the test step that failed, what was the expected result, and what was the actual result. And what is the test case that was linked to this particular defect. So I could see all the information from within JIRA. Now what I would like to do is, I would go back to RRC interface again, and I would like to browse the JIRA artifacts from within RRC now. So this time I would choose JIRA as the tool and bug as the entity, and I would now click to fetch the items from here, and you could see the WSLC webinar demo defect in QC. So it was created in QC and moved to JIRA for the subsequent fix and development work. So let's select that and link it with this customer requirement in RRC. So now this link gets created, and now if I click or mouse over on the link, I could see all this information coming from JIRA now on demand real time. Okay, so now we will again go back to JIRA, and what we would do is we would assign this to, let's say now Covéa, assign it, and I would basically move the defect through the workflow. So we would click on the start progress. So now somebody has started working on the defect, and the defect status shows as in progress. So now I can go back to RRC interface again and mouse over on that link. So see here the status got changed in progress. And also we changed the assignee to Cohere, so that also shows up here. Okay. So again, as the kind of things are getting done in JIRA, we could observe that from within RRC through this OSLC link. Now, let's go back again into JIRA, and this time what I would like to do is the developer has already worked on that and it has been fixed, so now I would like to resolve the issue. So fixed and say resolve. Okay. One other point I would like to show here is that you could see that OSLC link here also in the JIRA. So if I kind of have access to my kind of RRC, I could open up the RRC item from within JIRA. So this is an example of a backlink that is created within JIRA. Now let's go back to RRC here, and this time we should see the status as resolved. So we see the status as resolved, and if we click on more, I could see even this defect detail, the test case that was kind of associated with that, test set associated with the defect, the test parameters, what was the step, and expected result and actual result. So all the detailed information, some part is coming from the quality center, some is coming from the JIRA. We could see all these information. So now if I go back to my slide here, so now we have covered the third portion of the demo steps, which is between RRC and JIRA, and we have seen how the JIRA artifacts could be browsed from within RRC and linked, and as things are changing, the issue is getting assigned, it is getting resolved, we could see the status changes from within RRC through OSLC linking. Now, similarly, we could also kind of browse through the requisite pro requirements if some of you are using requisite pro instead of TFS as a requirements definition and management tool. So let me show that just quickly here. So if I select the requisite pro tool here and select requirement as an entity and say go, I should see all these requirements coming from JIRA, and see one requirement is already there, OSLC webinar demo requirement in requisite pro, and I can click on that and link it. So to summarize what kind of we have accomplished here, that we could show you that even though different stakeholders are using different tools, like the developer in this case was using TFS to implement the requirement, functional requirement, the tester is using Quality Center to create and execute the test cases and also the defect, and the support guys are using the JIRA tool to kind of track the defects as they are getting created and then kind of assigned to the developer and get it fixed. So even though all these stakeholders are using different tools, they could collaborate, and from within the RRC, we could see all the items, we could browse through all the items coming from different tools. We could link the items from within those tools, and we could view or edit those items from within RRC, and we could see all these information as they are getting changed in different tools on demand, real time. So Now, also we have seen that if you need integration beyond just the WSLC linking, so that means you need automated synchronization of items between multi-vendor tools, automation of relation synchronization between different tools. That all is supported by Cohere Omnibus. So Cohere Omnibus can support WSLC-based linking and synchronization, but it can go beyond and support bi-directional synchronization of not just information but relations and other attributes. Okay, so with that, I would kind of conclude the demo part of our webinar, and I would pass it on to Sky for the question and answer session.
Thank you, Atanu, for this wonderful demo. I'm sure our participants here could see how WSLC can be used to integrate with a number of different tools using Cohere Omnibus. Now, actually, you can add your questions. You can use the question panel, which is at the bottom of the GoToWebinar panel there, the Q&A panel, and you can type your question, and Atanu and myself will be very happy to answer them. And as we speak, actually, we already have a couple of questions here. One is, let me just make it a little bigger here. So the first question is the PDF report format supported? The answer is yes. PDF report can be generated out of any of the report I've actually talked about, Crystal, Excel, or Word, and you can actually save it in PDF, and you will have the PDF report. That's how actually it is generated. First you generate a report and then convert it into PDF. The second question is, actually, Atanu, it is for you. How does the requirement show up in QC through OSLC or Cohere integration?
Yeah, so as I mentioned during my demo, that either from within the RRC, you could create the requirement in Quality Center or TFS or Requisite Pro directly through the WSLC create new interface, or you could use Cohere Omnibus integration that does the automated replication or synchronization. If you create the item in one tool, like let's say in RRC, it gets automatically synchronized or replicated in other tools, and this replication or synchronization could be bidirectional. But that is a Cohere Omnibus integration platform feature, and you can use that.
Okay. The next question is, where is the relationship defined between requirement and test case in Cohere integration? So I think this is actually in the OSLC. This is really relationship is defined through the OSLC interface from the OSLC consumer, but we have not today shown the Cohere interface to create the relationship. So that is actually a separate demo for the Omnibus only. Here we have shown focused only on OSLC. Okay, so the next question is, can the linking from RRC in your example to QC be generated automatically using the traceability to the functional requirement and from that to the test case in QC? Atanu, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, so for that you need to use the Cohere Omnibus integration through WSLC. Yes, if you could do some programming, you could do that. But if you use Cohere Omnibus integration functionality, you can set up different service flows, and that way you could automatically create the relationships also in other tools. So basically, you could create, as the TFS got replicated, TFS requirement got replicated in Quality Center, and in Quality Center, we created the relationship between the Quality Center item and Quality Center test case and the TFS requirement. Your question is, how do I get that relationship replicated automatically in TFS? Through the WSLC, you could do it, but then in that case you have to write your own program. But CoVer Omnibus provides features that would enable you to replicate that kind of relationship here in RRC. But it has to be through an RRC adapter. It's not an OSLC based adapter.
Okay. The next one is OSLC wrapper is supporting federation and Omnibus supports federation and actual automation of data transfer. Then do we need both OSLC wrapper and Omnibus, or only Omnibus can meet integration needs? Well, the answer is yes. The Omnibus actually can do all the things OSLC does, plus additional things like the actual data transfer and some of the traceability, replication from one tool to another tool, also some process and reporting, etc. But for those who would like to kind of use the OSLC is actually a lightweight kind of integration. If you want to focus only on the lightweight integration, you can actually use OSLC, and in that case, you need the CoVer to support that. But just using CoVer Omnibus, you can actually achieve all those integrations. Next question is, the need for a manual link setting seems to be a redundant step. I don't know which particular manual link it refers to. Atanu, do you understand the reference here?
Can you repeat the question, please?
The need for a manual link setting seems to be a redundant step.
Yeah, so basically, I think he's referring to the last question that we described. That remember, we created the relationship in Quality Center between the test case and requirement, but from within RRC, we needed to link the requirement, the test case in Quality Center. So as I mentioned, today we have actually limited to only the OSLC portion of the kind of the OSLC based integrations. But if we use CoVer, only CoVer Omnibus integration, then we could achieve or we could avoid those redundant relationship linking from RRC.
Okay, we have actually time for two more questions. One is, who are existing clients in India? We have quite a few clients in India. As a matter of fact, one of our largest customers is Infosys, and they're using multiple different tools integration using Omnibus. They don't actually use the OSLC at this point of time, but they directly use Omnibus to integrate 15 different tools, more than 20,000 users, over 6 different centers of development. Also, we have other customers like Honeywell. We have a company called Medha. There is another company called Hexaware. So there are quite a few customers that are using CoVer today. Okay, so here is another question, and this may be the last one. In case automation tools are integrated to QC, then how and where do the reports of the automation test case appear if QC integrated with RRC while taking traceability? I think the question is not very clear, but let me try to answer it. I think the reports of the automation test case appear. So automation test case means, are you talking about the automated test case possibly? QC does not do the automated test case. In that case, you have to use some other tools like QTP, which may be integrated with QC either natively, or CoVer can actually, Omnibus can also do that. And let's see, the last one here is, can RRC requirements be integrated to test cases in lab management in TFS? Atanu, do you want to try that?
Yeah, the answer would be yes.
Okay. It seems like there are quite a few questions. People are very interested to find out in the different things. Can the Covair OSLC adapter be used together with other service bus providers such as WebSphere from IBM? Atanu?
Any other OSLC consumer tool, OSLC enabled tool would be able to use this Covair OSLC provider. So at this point, I know only some of the IBM tools, including RRC, RTC, RQM, and then there are some Rhapsody and some of the other tools which are OSLC enabled consumer tool. So they would be able to kind of use Covair OSLC adapter to kind of consume the artifacts coming from these different tools. I'm not aware that WebSphere is OSLC enabled at this point. If they are, then we'll be able to basically kind of use the Covair OSLC adapter.
All right, I think that's all the time we have for this webinar and the question answer session. We'd like to thank everybody, all the participants here. It was actually a great set of questions, and I am sure that you have more questions. I would strongly recommend you to send us an email to sales@covair.com, or you can go to our website, and there are a lot of information there, especially about Omnibus. You can download the white papers, and a number of webinar recordings are there about Omnibus also. I would strongly urge you to do that. And if you'd like to see kind of personalized demonstration with respect to the tools you use and see how they can be integrated, please let us know. Send us an email, sales@covair.com, or give us a call, and we would be very happy to do that demonstration. I'd like to conclude this webinar here, and once again, thank you very much, and goodbye.